And we are live on Facebook, gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another New Jersey Constitutional Republicans virtual conversation. Greatly honored and privileged tonight to have our two Republican Cumberland County freeholder or commissioner candidates here with us this evening, Mr. Antonio Romero and Mr. Joe Sileo. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
How'd you like that? How'd you like that accent, Tony? Was that pretty authentic or what?
Hey, you're on key. You're on key. For a minute, I thought you were Cuban.
Well, that's an honor. I used to play a lot of baseball and pitch, so I know we have a lot of great Cubans playing in the major leagues. Are great baseball players, as well as all of Latin America. And of course, we're big baseball fans. But it's a pleasure to have you both tonight. I'd like to start with you both giving us just a brief bio about yourself for the audience. And we'll start with Mr. Romero.
Oh, my God. I always get first, huh? All right. My name is Antonio Romero. And I actually come from Cuba. I came in 1966. We came because we couldn't live in a socialist country. That's the bottom line. Since Castro came in, we had issue with communism. We had issue with, if you want to call it socialism. They started taking everything away from the people. They started taking your bank accounts. They started doing everything that you have worked all your life. The pursuit of happiness, as you call it, Carmen, that did not longer exist, And, President Johnson traded Benadryl for a lot of the Cuban families. And, and I end up in July 28th, 1966, here in Miami, which the next day we flew to Cumberland County. And I've been residing here since. It's 55 years. I went to I went to school here in Cumberland County in Vineland. I graduated from Penco Tech. I went to University of Miami, bachelor's in electronics and communications. And then I came back to where I was raised. That's what we all should do, right? Come back to your own roots and, make this a better place. So I came here and I have a business here in Vineland. First, I have a wife, a wonderful wife with 5 children. I have a business here for 25 years. And I want you to know that I wasn't interested too much, other than I've been a Republican all my life, but being involved was not one of my main topics in life. But since what's going on with socialism and the left side so far to the left, that come out of my shell. This is what my parents fought for. This is why I end up here. And I came here and I ran on that note. I know you guys, Michael Testa, you always telling me, tell your story. And
that's right.
And right now this country needs all the help it could get. We do not want to end up in a socialism. We want to live a good life, prosper. Let our kids develop themselves and live in a good place. And that's why I'm running. I have to make that difference in life.
Right. And Tony, it's great that you are running. Now, Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I don't have as much of an interesting story as Tony does. He's
that's a tough one to follow.
Yeah, it is. He's quite a man, and his father was quite a man for what he had done to trade drugs for guns to get his family safely to the United States. That's really an amazing thing, and there are many families that have done the same thing. People out there need to know that people like Tony and people who've come from communist countries like Venezuela, they really truly understand what's happening to this country right now. As far as myself, I was originally from northern New Jersey. I met my wife at a very young age. I met her in 1979 at Glassboro State College. I left at 17 from home after I graduated from high school, and I never went back. I love Cumberland County. I think it's a great place to have a destination for a lot of people. My family is wonderful. I raised them all here. My three girls, they're wonderful girls. I have two teachers who teach in the Vineland School District. I have another good daughter who works for a very nice businessman who treats her very well. And I also have four wonderful grandchildren. And that was, and I've said this before, that's all that makes me happy. I don't need any more. But it's time to reach out to the county because I've been blessed to raise my children here, marry my wife, have a good life, make a good career. And now it's time for me to pay back. And paybacks are going to be what we need to do here. I mean, the Democrats need to pay back to our society, and they haven't done it.
That's right. And of course, we're going to be talking about the freeholder board or commissioner board, however you like to identify it, as being dominated by Democrats. It was 7-0 until Doug Albrecht was able to win last time. And it's so important, or 2 years ago rather, and it's so important for both of you to get on the board to be able to provide the balance that's needed, because we've seen the Democrats, and primarily people don't understand, gentlemen, that the decisions that you make on the local level, at the commissioner level, freeholder level, you have a more of an impact on the lives of the citizens of Cumberland County than in some ways maybe those who are representing us in Trenton, and especially those who are representing us federally. So this is very, very important, the position that you're both running for, and the people need to realize how important this position is and why both of you are going to be good representatives for the people of Cumberland County. Now, among the responsibilities that you have as board members would be the administration. There's an administration office, there's an education office, there's a finance office, a health office, an agricultural office, a public works and property and public safety. And many people don't realize that you are making the decisions on all of these very, very important agencies within the county. And what, in your estimation, is both of you are successful businessmen. Number one, finances. How important it is to you to bring back responsibility and frugal, or rather an effective means by which to govern the finances of the county. We've seen extraordinary expenditures. And of course, what are some of the ideas that you have to bring the fiscal house back in order in Cumberland County?
Tony, you want to speak to it first? Or you want me to?
I'll speak first. Carmen, I tell you the truth on this, we have been wasting so much money in Cumberland County. I mean, we all know about the jails that never got built, that is nothing but concrete slab, and that's Joseph's line there. And we know we wasted $13.5 million, in which we have to pay in 30 years, $65 million. Your grandchildren will be paying for that. So that is that's a big waste of money. They have been trying to sell our county utilities without us knowing about it. And that there they say, and I want to make something clear. We are voting for that utility companies to stay in there because we need to back up the people. That's the most important thing. I'm not there to favor employees, unions, or anybody. I'm thinking of our community. And I want to make that clear right now because it's gotten too far. And you know what I'm talking about. We are here to serve our community. And this is why I made the decision that if I'm elected, it will stay. It will stay. I want to make that clear. And in education, We have been dropping it since COVID-19. You know, our kids are no longer, you know, one of the good things, and I'm not praising on it, was Obama's no kids stay behind. Nowadays, they all staying behind. And those kids are not going to be ready for college. And we need that. We need our kids in our community, because you know that we are 21 out of 21 counties. We're last. And the only way we're going to get out of there is by training our kids, bringing industries. And this all, well, we will flourish with this. And that's very important for us. And you know, those are the reasons why that will save you money at the long run. You know, we gotta, we gotta quit wasting money. We're doing a great job doing that right now by the freeholder board. You know, they're wasting our money. You know, let's say what happened with the utility. If they sell it for $38 million, they're going to get their money back. So how are they going to get their money back? By raising price on our communities. You know, that's how they're going to get it back. We must not allow that to happen. We cannot let that happen. It has nothing to do with employees and unions to me. I only could speak for myself. It has to be, it is for the people. And the people are the majority in this case.
Right. And Tony, the people stepped up about, and were very, very, voiced their displeasure, if you will, with the idea of privatizing the utilities. And of course, it's always been run by the county, and it provides jobs for the county. It's very, very
I
important
believe it provides
aspect of the county.
jobs, and it has a comfortable $17 million in the bank account. So why get rid of one of the only things you have that is actually making you money?
Right. And Joe, please speak to that issue if you would as well.
Well, not only just the county itself, but New Jersey itself has been in a fiscal trajectory downwards, unsustainable almost, even before COVID-19. And what after a decade of recovery before 2008 during the housing boom, New Jersey still remains stuck in a degraded fiscal condition. Now, I want to read something to real quickly, is that selected from a report back in 2020 from News and World Report survey. The Garden State ranks 49 out of 50 in terms of fiscal stability.
That's right.
Now, unemployment, 48 out of 50. GDP growth rate, 36 out of 50. Unemployment growth, 44 out of 50. And I can keep going on. Property tax rate, 47 out of 50. Income tax rate, 47 out of 50. Now, do we really need a company coming in, a holding company no less, monetizing the CCUA or leasing the CCUA? You know they're going to raise rates to make up the difference of whatever their purchase was over a period of time. Then we're going to have more people in an economic situation. We may put more people out of business. We may put more people out of work because they may change labor conditions. And people who are collecting pensions was to stop them from saying, okay, we're bankrupt, we start a new company all over again. These are the kind of things that we have to worry about. So that's just the CCUA.
Right.
We have a fiscal responsibility to this county to do the proper things. There are major programs that we can get involved with, and we can make Cumberland County a tourism destination. There are certain private companies right now building in Cumberland County that have that interest in mind. We need to do that.
Right. And we have to provide, and the board has to provide an environment for economic growth. And it's very difficult because the Democrats' mantra is always going to be tax and spend,
Yes,
raising taxes, irresponsibly managing money. There's no greater example of that than what has happened with the county jail. We are sending prisoners to other counties and paying for it. Yet we have a Cumberland County jail that should have been early on, years ago, considered for improvements or whatever needs to be done to keep that county jail viable. And then, of course, all the money that was appropriated for a new jail, the project was stopped. And a lot of it has to do with, I've heard you talk about this, with the inadequacies of the bail reform, which of course, Jack Ciattarelli and the Republicans, we need to straighten that situation out, which is very unjust, releasing criminals back on the street. It makes no common sense. So gentlemen, speak to the fact that the Democrats are going to continue to tax and spend, and the people of Cumberland County aren't going to receive any services as a result of it.
Tony, may I speak to this one first?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, as you know, JR, you saw my little blurb I put out on Facebook about the jail. Just to let everybody know briefly what has occurred there was that it was basically determined that it was a good idea to build a new jail over on Buck Cheatham Road. So they proceeded with the building of the building. They took out a $65 million bond, which is uncallable. Now, people, uncallable means that you cannot pay it early, so you can't save any money, which means now we are paying the interest on that non-callable bond for the next 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. Number two, they decided within a year, a little bit of maybe a year plus or minus, that it was no longer a good idea to build the same jail. Now, with that said, you still have to pay the bond. You've got a $13 million slab of concrete sitting in the middle of nowhere on Buck Cheatham Road, which is not doing anybody any good. You're paying interest on something that is of no value, which they'll probably sell for $1 to another company. Number two, you've got another $40 million that's somewhere missing in the sky somewhere, and Doug Albrecht is still harping and trying to find exactly where it is. That's the first part of the jail situation. Number two, COVID. Now you've got COVID. COVID had hit. They had many cases of COVID in the old jail. One guard died because of COVID. And it was a very, very sad situation. We were there at one of the meetings for the jailers at the Cumberland County Jail. And it was a very sad event. We saw the family.
Hard for him.
Very, very hard to take in. Number two, Joe Dorella. And I'm going to bring his name up because he is the mastermind of this whole debacle. He planned this jail along with other commissioners prior to Doug Albrecht becoming a commissioner. And I'm just sorry to say, but you just can't change your mind that quickly. You can't go from a good idea to a bad idea within 1 year based on bail reform. Bail reform was a good idea. No, it wasn't. Bail reform was a bad idea. Yes, it still is. And you still made the wrong decision to begin with. And we're spending the money now to take our inmates to other counties like Gloucester, and I haven't gotten to that point yet, Gloucester and Atlantic County, taking them into their jails and paying for them to be transported. To make matters worse, we just got another warden, the third warden within 2 years. And I tell you, I laugh at this stuff because you can't make it up. He is now a warden for us on shared services between Gloucester County and Cumberland County, but there is no jail in Gloucester County, and we're paying $137,000 salary to this gentleman through Gloucester County. Are we going to share his salary with Gloucester County, or how's that going to work? Are we going to pay another salary? And we don't know that yet. These are the kind of
prisoners in it.
Yes, these are kind of monies that we're spending for our county. And these people in our county are paying out the nose for stupidity. I'm sorry to say it. That's the way it is.
Well, the management of the jail situation alone should warn the people of Cumberland County that they need to put new members on this board who are going to be fiscally responsible and not make disastrous mistakes. Anyone who made a mistake like that in the business world, they'd be bankrupt and they'd be out of business. The other thing I think is interesting. That's right. And the other thing I think is interesting to note, gentlemen, is that with Phil Murphy's lockdown orders, violating and suspending the constitutional rights of freedom of assembly, of religious expression, of New Jersey citizens, the inalienable right to work and to own a business and to keep their money and earn their money, all because of the overreach, the expansion of gubernatorial powers through directive executive orders. Not one of the Democrats on this board objected or stood up for the business owners. And of course, what happened in Cumberland County with this health crisis was much less severe than it was up in North Jersey and in some of the other more populated areas. And yet Phil Murphy, led by the advice of Judith Pretricelli, the Department of Health Commissioner lady, making decisions for the whole entire state rather than letting local representatives like the freeholder boards or like the commissioner boards letting assembly candidates, representatives, letting state senators make the decisions for their local areas that they represent. Yet not one Democrat on this board objected to Phil Murphy's high-handed suspension of constitutional rights.
I agree. I agree. There's no argument there. You said it very well, JR.
JR, you said
And
it.
what
They just won't, they don't care about constitutional at all. They make any decisions they want to make. And this is something I carry right here. It's our Constitution.
Yes.
We need to defend to the end, so you're 100% right.
That's right. And what people need to understand is that, okay, you're part of local government. There's the expression that all government is local. So the decisions that you're making have a tremendous impact. And we talked about it's just not the jail, it's just not the utilities, but it's also the overall administration of our public schools and education. When we know that we have a terrible property tax problem in New Jersey, and that there's a lot of waste that's involved. And of course, you would be making decisions that would be fiscally responsible regarding public education, plus financing. And of course, as being both successful businessmen, you know that we need to create an environment that people will come down and bring their business to the Violent Industrial Park, to the Millville Industrial Park, to the fine areas here in Bridgeton. And why is that so? Why is that? It doesn't seem as though the Democrats on this board are deaf to the need to bring Cumberland out of the economic abyss that it's been for years under their control.
That's why, because they want to keep you down. They want to keep you down, getting handouts, stay home, smoke weed nowadays. This is what they want.
Yeah, that's right.
This is exactly what they want us to do. And we got to change that. We need to bring more industries. We need to bring more jobs. This is where we need to spend our money, building up Cumberland County, not letting it destroy itself.
Right. And how important it is go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, JR, as you know, well, and didn't explain that to the audience, but my background is in the steel industry for close to 40 years.
Yes.
I've been involved with major projects, the Copper Building in Manhattan, the Tappan Zee Bridge, major structural operations here throughout the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast area. I just brought down into the Millville Industrial Center a company that is now going to be hiring anywhere between 30 and 60 people, depending upon the volume. They're bringing new work into this area. This is the kind of economic development that we need in this county, because in order to be fiscally responsible, you have to balance between the fresh water, the DEP, the green acres, all the wetland operations that are
very difficult.
That we so much love in Cumberland County. Don't get me wrong, but we also need to bring in industry to support higher paying jobs. Not everybody can go work at Wawa or at Wendy's and make a decent salary. The median income in Cumberland County is only $51,000 to $52,000 a year combined, that's close to the poverty line.
Well below the national average.
Exactly. So we need to bring more companies in that are well-paying jobs. We are doing that. Anthony Canucci in Vineland is doing an excellent job of bringing in major industry into the Vineland Industrial Center. I started to do something in Millville Industrial Park. I felt so bad when our company many years ago closed down. The Canes had to close Kane Steel down for over 55 years in business because of,
My, oh my.
it was 2008, 2009. What do you expect?
Yep.
And who do we have in office at that time? I
Then-
don't have. I
And
don't
then you have to listen, and then you have to listen to Murphy said, you know, if you don't like it, just move out of the state.
Yes.
Yeah,
If taxes
taxes
are
are
your
your
issue,
issue.
And
if
yeah,
taxes are your
taxes are
issue,
your
then
issue,
New
move out of
Jersey's
the
not for
state.
you. Correct. That's correct.
That's exactly right. And what the people of Cumberland County have to make up their mind is that they want to get representatives, have representatives like the two of you who understand the importance of bringing economy and helping businesses, not hindering businesses. Just mentioned some obstacles, Joe, in describing the businesses that would come and create economics here in South Jersey. And you also mentioned the idea of tourism, and of course, the Bay Shore community and Mayor Campbell, and working with him down there. There's a tremendous opportunity. The lighthouse, which is a wonderful historic destination. The Cumberland County has some wonderful beaches, Tony, as I've heard you say. There's so much to accentuate with Cumberland County that the Democrats are failing to help facilitate. That this is why it's important for men like yourself who have open minds and are going to be willing to think outside the box to create an economic environment from which people will come and bring business.
JR, I
These are
tell you what,
terms-
JR, I'd like to have Tony speak to the little story that he's told the other day about taking his son to Fortescue to go to the
Mhm.
beach. His son
Beautiful.
never knew about the beach. Go ahead, Tony. Just
Yeah,
talk
I-
about it.
You
Yeah.
know, throughout this campaign, I learned a lot since last year about Cumberland County. And I
Mhm.
got to go to the Butterfly Festival at the Lighthouse. I look at the needs for our beaches to make them better. So being that we are family oriented people, I decided to take my son the other day down at Forest Cube and look at our beaches. And as soon as he saw that, he took his shoes off, he rolled down his pants, he jumped in the water, and he was very thankful for what we have. And this is
Yeah.
what I like all the people to realize, that we have our own beaches. 20 minutes away from right from from Vineland, but real close to Millville, even less time, and very good restaurant. The I read seafood restaurant.
Charlesworth.
Exactly.
Red Eye, right?
in the
We
back.
have great things that
Charlesworth
great
Inn.
in this
Yep.
county that we actually need to share with everybody. On the same token, we need to
Yes.
help them get out there and help them develop those areas. And that goes along maybe with county parks, and maybe Cohency is a great area for maybe one day. But we have talked about it. We lost a good opportunity there because it was out for sale. But
Right.
we cannot let things go by. We need to jump on them. We need to act, and we need to make Cumberland County a great place.
And what do you both anticipate your position is going to be regarding our law enforcement here in Cumberland County? Of course, they took away the sheriff's responsibility in running the jail, which makes no sense whatsoever. And it would be better to have the sheriff managing that facility. It's traditionally been that way. Of course, the sheriff's office is a constitutional office, and it would be good to bring that back. Do you both of you gentlemen support that position?
Most definitely, actually, JR. We've spoke about this on several occasions. And I've talked very intense and extensively with a lot of different sheriffs about the actual. Now, let's put it this way. They want to grow. They want to do things. They want to see salary increases because they're very underpaid for what they do. I think as an elected official from the sheriff's department, if they were to run the jail, they would be more answerable to the repercussions that you're seeing now. Now, in that said, we're also losing very good men. Remember, the sheriff's department gets the same training that a police officer gets 21 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. And then what happens is they join the sheriff's department. They work for a very, very low salary. They do a lot of the things that police departments do. They serve warrants, which is a very dangerous situation. They have their own canine fleet, and they do undergo very dangerous situations. And yet they are not as well trained as our police departments. And then when they actually get a couple of years underneath their belt, what happens? They move to another police department and we lose that good person. I'd like to see basically the organizations and the unions talk to us, speak to us, understand that it's not just about the older sheriffs that are making a decent amount of salary. It's about the young guys coming up the ranks. We need to develop that, expand their abilities and also their responsibilities, because I think they should be involved with the jail. I think they should be involved with more of the township type policing that needs to be done. The state troopers cannot do it all in Upper Deerfield, Greenwich, Fairton, all down the line, Port North. They've lost so many police officers over the years by making shared services. We need to expound upon sheriff's department. Tony and I are very much about public safety and about your property.
That's well said, and excellent positions. Now, also there is some responsibilities. Of course, the state mandates to the Board of County Commissioners or freeholders conducting elections, and we've seen some disturbing reports, primarily nationally, but also in New Jersey. We saw last year Phil Murphy mandating mail-in only elections, which was unconstitutional. That's something that the legislature does first, and then he either vetoes or supports or signs a bill like that. But it went backwards. He initiated that law first, and then the Congress, the Democrats all fell in line, the majority. So how important is it for the board, both of you being on the board, will be making the integrity of our elective process a priority again?
Tony, I'll let you go first and I'll follow.
Well, it is a priority. I mean, we have to work very hard on that. We need to we need to make changes. There's no way you could change the county without changing some of the leaders and some of the and some of their way of doing things. We like to see people stay, but we are going to make changes, and we are going to move forward. We need to move this county forward, and Joe and I talk about this all the time. How important it is to run a good, and have backup of all your different organizations and difference in supervisors, county level, sheriff department, and it's all one big team. And we need to make that team work. That's basically Joseph, you want to add that to that?
Yes, I will. JR, as you know, the state legislatures, they write the laws for how voting is going to occur. And they just changed law recently to the 9 days, the vote by mail, and then the 1 day in-person voting, as well as the 9 day in-person voting. Well, I think what you saw there in Trenton is that the Democrats actually let Murphy run shipshod over the state for a year because they figure if it goes, it goes, and if it's workable, it's fine. If he hangs himself, it's not a loss to us. And I think as a politician, Sweeney and Norcross are very smart politicians. And I think that's what they did. They actually let Murphy run chipshod over this and see what happens. And that's exactly what happened. I think it's not a very good look for Murphy at this point in time. Now, what it said, Cumberland County doesn't have any say in the election process, but we do have a county clerk and a director of the elections, which we can then look at to keep a much more tight knit, tight run ship to keep things going. We have new machines now. Supposedly they're going well. We'll see. I think they're pretty good. I know that Jeff Van Drew last election as a Republican won at 8 points on a Dominion machine, which means that it seems like it's working well for us now. All that said, understand that we also have a lot of legislators that are up for election in the state of New Jersey. We can change the way the seats are in the state. We may be able to go possibly red or get a closer balance. And this is what Michael Test is doing along with Eric and Antoine to get that balance, not only in the county, but in our LD1. And we're looking to get LD3 and LD2 more balance as well.
Right. And what the Democrats did initially, what Phil Murphy did, it harkens back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his inaugural speech when he said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." Well, that fear is exactly what the Democrats exploited in suspending the constitutional rights, unprecedented in our history. Suspending the First Amendment right of freedom of assembly, of religious expression, and the ability of the people of New Jersey to work. Now, who has the audacity to say who is a essential worker and who is a non-essential worker? That is an unconstitutional concept. All people are to be treated equally, and the laws applied to them all equally the same. Everyone has the right to make a living and earn and keep their property. And that's the fundamental subject, or the fundamental responsibility of government, is to protect the person and their property. However, the Democrats exploited this situation, as FDR did with the Great Recession, or the Great Depression, rather, in expanding gubernatorial, or in FDR's place, presidential power. And they do it by saying it's a war. Now, in a time of real war, the executive office is given tremendous and expansive powers. Well, that's the same mentality the Democrats employed with this COVID-19 pandemic, which was woefully miscalculated. And the science is still not settled. The science, again, is still not settled. There's always a counterpoint to many of the what Phil Murphy considers objective truth. There is an answer, or there is an alternative view to everything that he has said regarding this COVID-19 lockdown. And it was the responsibility of our legislators to stand up and say, enough. We are the lawmakers. Your executive orders have the force of law. They are unconstitutional. There's nowhere in the New Jersey Constitution or the federal Constitution, speaking of executive orders, nowhere. I'm still looking. I can't find them. The legislature is given that responsibility, the sole authority of making law. And this is why it's important, because you, being on the board of commissioners of freeholders, you will be supervising those who are in charge of the elections of the county clerk. And it's very important that you're intimately involved with the details and everything that's going on in each precinct that is running here in Cumberland County. It's a very important job, because the people, and I think that this is very alarming, the people, not only in New Jersey, but throughout the country, are now questioning the validity and the genuineness, or the veracity of their election process. And that is very alarming. We have to have true and accurate elections in order to remain a republic. And notice I said republic instead of
Not a
democracy.
Democrat. That's right. That's right. Very good, JR. Very good. Um,
It's always a pleasure listening to JR. It's always a learning experience. This is what he does, and he puts me in a great position here to sit down and listen to it. And, same thing with Michael Testa with us. We have great leaders that, we shared every day with, and it's a pleasure to listen to them sometimes, most of the times.
JR, we have a very good slate from the top down. Jack Chitterelli is a businessman. He is an accountant. He knows how to look at the numbers and make a balanced budget. We have Michael Testa, who's a very accomplished attorney. We have Eric Simonson. Eric was a teacher, I think a principal, if I'm not mistaken, and is an educator. We have a very balanced slate. We have Antoine. Antoine is an excellent gentleman. He's now the minority whip in legislature. Antonio Romero, I'll say.
That was good.
He is a businessman, self-made. What else can you have? You have a man like myself in the construction industry that knows how to build things, has tactile sense, not just a holding company that deals with numbers and figures and doesn't care about the person. When I was building buildings, Manhattan, somebody look this up, the copper buildings in Manhattan on 34th Street. They're gorgeous buildings. Guess what? They're still standing, they're going strong, and they're very expensive, especially because it's in Manhattan. But the point is that we built something. We can build Cumberland County back again. That's all I've got to say to that.
Right. Very good. And I want to say, Tony, you're seeing things that are being done in this country now, and even locally, with the tyranny of the Democrats, for lack of a better word, excluding our Republican representative Doug Albrecht from meetings, meeting behind closed doors and shutting the door to him. What will set you and Joe apart is that you're Republicans and you look to represent all of the people equally, whereas the Democrats are only interested in governing for those that voted for them. And that is a reality. Whereas you are going to represent the people who do not vote for you in protecting their natural rights as being on this board and executing local government. And Tony, it must be amazing, coming from another country and living in this country and appreciating the ideas of liberty and freedom that the Declaration of Independence talks about and the Constitution protects. It must be amazing for you to see people who are born in this country, yet they do not appreciate what they have in this country, yet you have seen the dark side and seen the light. Whereas these people, and many of them have been indoctrinated, unfortunately, in our public school system to think that America is a bad place or that it is inherently racially systemic racist, which are all untruths. But it really must be remarkable for you to see the people and the young people who don't understand what our government and what the blessings of liberty they have. And that you came here from a different world. How do we get that message out to the younger people of Cumberland County?
JR, we need to educate them and educate people in socialism, and we need to do it early in schools, because you know what? That's what they do to their kids, but they brainwash them. They brainwash them. Look at what's going on. I was talking to Joseph the other day, and how close we are to socialism.
We're there in many aspects.
In California, look all those ships outside the harbor. This is no different than a Cuban embargo. Our shelves are getting empty. We're not getting products, and people have to see that. People have to see that we lost 30% of the small businesses in this country, and we'll never get them back. This is part of
Yeah, terrible.
socialism. Get rid
Mhm.
of the small business, take over the industries, and now, there's nothing left for us to live for. A doctor in Cuba makes $26 a month. A month, $26. How can you live on that? Compared to our doctors down here making 300,000, $500,000 a year, some of them. We have to wake up. We have to start, showing our kids. I get on the when I have dinner, it always ends up with my kids on this conversation.
Mhm.
You cannot let this go. You have to look where I came from. Look where your grandparents came from. What they
Mhm.
sacrificed in life. We lost, my parents, my mother was an educator. My father
Mhm.
was, was it was the first, actually was the first Cuban singer in national television. And,
How
and,
about that?
I got to remind them what they have sacrificed, what they left to come to this
Mm.
country and give my sister and I the freedom to go to school, to better ourselves.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
sister is a retired a principal. Uh, you know, I own my own business. The opportunities there. We have to continue taking advantage of these opportunities. But how do we
Mhm.
do it? We need to start training our youth. We cannot
Mhm.
say accept a handout, accept an education. That's what you need to accept. We need to go to
Mhm.
school. We need to better them. We need to get them involved. And
Mhm.
and that's very important, Jr. It's very
Yeah.
important because I remember when when I went to Russia to represent Cuba in a chess match. I was only 9 years old, and they put a 16-year-old Russian to make sure I got beat. This is the kind of people they are. This is the kind of people they are.
Uh-huh. Oh
And
yeah.
exactly. And we cannot let this happen to us. The left has gone too far. The good days of
Uh-huh.
the good Democrats, John F. Kennedy or whoever was, even though Cubans are not happy with him, and neither am
Right.
I, but those days are gone. These people are mean.
Uh-huh.
They're mean. They're taking
Right.
everything away from you. They're taking all your freedom. And and
Right.
and this is why we have to make a difference. We cannot lay down and let these people do
No.
it to us.
And we've been talking, gentlemen, Joe, we've been talking about the fact that Republicans need to make the state constitution relevant again. And the very first sentence in our Constitution, Article 1, rights and privileges of the people, says all persons are by nature free and independent. And they also, clause 2 says that all political power is inherent in the people. Now, do you really think that Phil Murphy and the Democrats and those Democrats on the Cumberland County Board, do you really think that they believe in those early concepts articulated in our state constitution?
I don't think we have to believe. I think you need to see their actions and what they've
Very
actually
good.
done to us. When they have caused us to have mandates under conditions that are not proven conditions based on the science, then you know that their opinion states what you just said, JR. Now, with that said, we have a moral obligation to go out and vote and make sure you do not let somebody suppress your vote just because they say you don't have a chance to win. Because if that's the case, we never would have put the flag on top of Hiroshima, on top of not Iwo at the time when the Marines put the flag in to settle the score against the Japanese. You have to go in fighting and never stop. We have to go in and do this because Republicans, if you give up today, you're going to give up the rest of your lives and your children's lives. I cannot be any more adamant about this. This is the end of the line. This is the rope. because I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said that when you're ending your rope, you tie a knot. And when you're tying that knot, then you're hanging by a thread. Gotta
I
go,
want
guys.
to tell you, Joe, that you make a great point about the moral obligation, about the moral high road that the Republican Party has to take, that the people have to take in electing representatives, Republican representatives who will take the high moral ground, not only with the voting, but in all aspects, whether it's law or order, whether it's education, teaching accurately and correctly, dealing with facts, dealing with actual history. We have a high moral ground that we must reach, and the constitutional Republicans, we continually preach on that. So you're really hitting the nerve, a good nerve there, and talking about the moral obligation and responsibility of the people to require constitutional literacy and intellectual rigor from their candidates. And both of you gentlemen have both of those very, very important attributes. And that's what's so important, that we restore proper representation in Cumberland County. Now, as we finish up, gentlemen, how would we address those who've continually voted Democrat? Of course, Tony, you know, there's many in Vineland, the city of Vineland, there's many in Millville, many in Bridgeton that continually vote Democrat, yet they see nothing that would be remotely considered an improvement economically, safe environment, safe public safety, better education, more employment economically. We haven't seen any of that, but yet people continually vote Democrat. What do you say to them? What do you say to those people who have not sent in their ballots yet, thinking about it, maybe making a change this year? What do you say to them to get them to go over the fence and vote Republican?
Well, it's not about Democrats and not about Republican. It's about getting the job done. You have to elect the people that are going to work in your community. You know, you've seen what we gotten so far. Nothing. 38 years they've been controlling our county. It's time for a change. It's time for saying, God bless America, and God help us do the right thing. And look at the abortion laws. Are we really? Are we really a Christian? When we vote constantly, again and again for those key people who are killing babies. Are we really? And
Don't
I know
get me started, Tony.
I hate a topic that you would love to spend the day on. But this is what they do. This is what they do, and this is the far left. It's not about who what you. It's not about us being Republicans or Democrat or everything. It's Joe and I. We care. We care for these people. We care for our Constitution. We care for our rights. We care that our kids have a good place to live. We care for the safety of all our elderlies. We care for all those things. And that's what makes us too different than everybody else out there. We are going to go in there and we're going to get the job done. We're not going to let them go into a restroom to go in the back room and rest there. We are going to demand a meeting. We are going to demand to have positive things done. And that's the difference between Joe and I. And we are going to represent our county. We're going to represent our communities. And the people, I think, are tired of it. I mean, they're tired of these taxes. They're tired of being abused. And it's time for a big change.
JR,
Joe, what do you think?
I'm going to say the same. Tony and I have been to many places during the campaign. We've been to the Southern New Jersey Food Bank. We see the great things that they do. We've went to a fundraiser for Rowan College of South Jersey for the ACT program. See how much that is needed for our disabled children and or our challenged children. I think it's a great program. I think it needs to be looked at. I see a lot of good things for Cumberland County in the future, but we have to make a correction in the election. And I keep saying that because Tony said it best. It's not about Republican. It's not about Democrat, because we have come into contact with a lot of people, either undecided or Democrat, who have actually looked at us and said, what can you do? Because they're disgusted what their own party has done. And we both know that many politicians over the years have left the Democrat Party. What we just recently, Jeff Van Drew, Ronald Reagan, and Charlton Heston. We can go on and on. So the point is that it's not a bipartisan situation. It's partisan, and we make it that way. But we need to make it bipartisan. And when we make it bipartisan, people who of either side take a look at us and go, I like what you have to say. We were in Millville the other day. We were talking with a couple, and actually we were with the city commissioner candidate as well. And we were talking with them, and he kept looking at my shirt and going, and he's trying to remember my shirt name that I had on there, because he didn't know who I was, because he only knew the Democrats. And then finally he says, you know what? I like what you have to say. Because if people stop not listening, because the old saying is that, you know, your mind is like a parachute, it only works when it's open. And when people stay open-minded, they realize that sometimes the other idea could be a better idea. That's why we have dialogue. And the reason we're going to have dialogue is because we're going to go down to every community. And I was just down in Leesburg yesterday. And I told Mayor Leesburg that we are going to talk to you, find out what your needs are. We're going to go to Heislerville. We're going to go more Easttown. We're going to go to downtown. We're going to go to Fortescue. We're going to go to Greenwich. And we're going to see what you need. And then we're going to try and put into the budget and find out if we can get it done.
Joseph, it's not that we're gonna go. We've been there. So, you know, that is our interest right there, is to make those townships and everybody known in Cumberland County that they have needs, just like Vineland, just like Millville, just like Preston. And we have to, and we've been there. We have talked to all of them already.
We knocked on a lot of doors.
We intend to continue this. We contend, if I can, and if they don't want to listen, I will go to the radio stations. I will go to JR. I will go get, I will let the county know that we got 3 guys in there that means business. That we're not going to push around. And that's what it's all about. This is us. This is us. We don't come with any special labels or anything. We are going to be the people's choice.
Well, gentlemen, don't forget the far northwestern tundra of the state, or the county rather, Cumberland County here in Hopewell too. Make sure you come and see us as well. Okay, we're out in the far northwest, so don't forget about Hopewell. But I want to tell the audience, please share this video. And everyone who's already supporting both of you, please share the video. It gives exposure. And the Constitutional Republicans, we are dedicated to giving Republicans and conservatives a forum by which they can communicate and by which they can be known. I don't believe that the Vineland Journal or the NJ.com has reached out to either one of you gentlemen to get any perspective whatsoever. And this is because the left controls the media, and it's important for the people to realize that the Constitutional Republicans, we are providing Republicans the alternative. We are providing all of the citizens, regardless of partisanship, the alternative view, the conservative view, the traditional Republican view. And that's why it's important that you get this word out, that you get the exposure for these 2 gentlemen, and that Republicans in Cumberland County, we need 100% turnout. 100%. Republicans cannot be sitting back idle and indifferent on November the 2nd. They need to be voting, and they need to be voting Republican. Now, I'd like to leave you both.
JR, column A. JR, column A.
Column A. Column A. A for alpha. Column alpha.
Column A.
There it is. Column alpha. And just And let me finish off this evening with providing both of you gentlemen and all of our listeners in our audience some words of encouragement. And here they are. Abraham Lincoln said, regarding the founding of the United States, regarding our initial document, the Declaration and the Constitution, he said this, that all of this is not the result of an accident, had nothing to do with luck or chance. This was determined, what happened with the creation of this country and our republic. And he said, all this is not the result of an accident. It has a philosophical cause. Without the Constitution and the Union, we could not have attained the results. But even these are not the primary cause of our great prosperity. There's something back of these entwining itself more closely about the human heart. And that something is the principle of liberty to all. The principle that clears the path for all, gives hope to all, and by consequence, enterprise and industry to all. If Republican candidates and Republicans, again, restore these great principles and these words, we will be the party of the majority. The majority of the people will believe in these words. We just have to articulate them and share them and restore them back within our Republican Party.
Thank you, JR.
Thank you for having us, JR.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. All the best. I hope to see you this weekend at the Cumberland County Breakfast, and I invite everyone to come out. If you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever you may be, come out to the Cumberland County Breakfast, get to know these two fine gentlemen. Make sure you're voting for them on November the 2nd. Thank you very much, gentlemen. On to victory.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.